Gupta, who's going to act as our mediator. So Hannah, the floor is yours. Can we just give Hannah an applause, please? He's young. He's a young person that's going to chair our meeting tonight.
Want to maybe give a little bit of a background as to what it is that I'm going to be doing here and what my responsibility is?
So at tonight's meeting, when we had the meeting in April, there were some questions and were answered and some were not, and so there were worked into questions since that time. And there were basically 3 questions that were not addressed, and so tonight we will continue with those questions and work into questions received since then. And after that, we will go through the questions that we've already received, and we will take some additional questions if any, there are any from any of you.
So Hannah's going to be here tonight to help us get through all of those questions and to keep us working on a good way and a good path with what we have on the agenda. We want to make sure that we get to everybody and we hear everybody's concerns and opinions, but in order to do so, we need to respect each other's time and respect each other's voices. So Hannah's going to help us do that tonight and hopefully for future meetings as we keep going in this way.
Yo. Yep. Hannah's going to be our mediator. Mm-hmm.
You're chairing the meeting, Hannah?
That's my chair?
Yes.
Oh, there's no chairs there, though.
Here. You don't get to sit down the way we do. We're old folks.
Young legs get you in shape for lacrosse.
Have you got an agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll sit here because I can listen from here.
No, but you announce the topics. Yeah, you follow. You announce the agenda, and then we.
We're just adding things to his job
that's
description
all
as
right.
we go.
I just requested
You're
a
in
gavel,
training.
but I didn't get one.
Surprise.
Okay, so, general community meeting, May 27th, they had mentioned some of the agenda items were covered last meeting, so they're gonna be covering them. I guess the first topic on the agenda, what I have here is gonna be covered governance. Correct? Gagwin, we'll go from there.
You want me to start at this then?
Just, if you want to speak first, I don't want to speak ahead of the council, so I'm going to give them a chance to speak first.
You want to start at this end or the other end, Chief?
It doesn't matter. There, Hannah, you can just take the questions as they're, put your hand up so council, Hannah can see that you're ready to answer.
Oh, yeah, down there.
So we're gonna just do the governance one then, Chief?
I believe so. I think that's what's on our beginning here.
All right, so under the,
Linda,
what?
you gotta get real up in there.
Hello? They can hear me now. So under the governance, we have, well, we're counselors that, and we have council meetings, and we have portfolios. My portfolio is, I have communities, social and health, and I also sit on the HASA board, which is the Health and the Safety Advisory Board. I also sit on the AFLDC board, the Aboriginal Labor Force Board, and I also have a job. I work. And I also have I have a nonprofit organization that I do, and I've been doing for 4 years, and that's my grassroots fund. I'm not sure what else I'm supposed to say.
Yeah, whatever you feel.
Okay, well, I felt that.
Okay, I'm Chris Brandt, counselor, and the portfolios that I hold are the lands, also with the parks and recreations, and I also sit on, which is new, the arena design committee. So there has been a design, a committee that has selected of 11, and plus myself is 12. We haven't started our meetings yet, but our minds are coming together to try to design arena that will help everybody, draw everybody out in a form of a healthy lifestyle, if you will. If we're talking about jobs, I actually work 3 different jobs, council being one of them. I'm a truck driver, which this week it would probably be near 65 to 70 hours for 5 days. And then I own a fishing charter business, which takes up my weekend. So I've got a pretty full plate, but it doesn't stop me. I started at 2 o'clock this morning, and I'm here tonight. So anyway, that's because I'm here for the people, here for everybody. Yoa.
Thank you, Chris. Hi there, my name is Chris Miracle. I think I know pretty well everybody here, so I don't have to go back into my history and such. Unfortunately, I don't have any portfolios. I was told that I would be held 100% responsible and accountable for the housing and parks portfolio, yet I have absolutely no input. So I said I will not be held responsible if I have absolutely no input in my portfolios. So I have no portfolios. That being said, I rarely ever miss a meeting. I've retired now for a second time because I want to give back to my community. I retired about a year ago, actually a couple years ago. I didn't take on no contract, didn't renew any contracts, and I volunteered for the community, and I volunteered to have a beach volleyball court in place within a few weeks. And I said, get me our nets, and the kids will be playing this weekend. I said, because I don't want to be here 2 years from now, a couple $100,000 later, a litany of consultants later, and guess what? Go down to the splash pad. Go look at that beach volleyball court. It's now been 2 years. We have engineers, designers, consultants testing sand, and we're upward to a couple $100,000. So I will not be responsible, although I do hold council's feet to the fire. If I don't agree, I say I don't agree. And it's not easy when you're the only person at the table disagreeing. So for those that think that I shouldn't get an honorarium for not having a portfolio title, I can tell you, I attend my meetings, I take my job very seriously. If I'm not off to an Iroquois caucus meeting with 10 other people, I'm out up. You'll probably see me at the Elders Lodge, wandering around the community, visiting my constituents. Thank you.
I'm Erin Ferrante. I hold the education portfolio. If we're just doing introductions, I also work at Conteke Midwives. And yeah, I'm not sure what else. Go ahead, Jorge.
I'm McGorry Brandt. I hold the public safety, and I also was given the housing portfolio a few months back. I work full-time as well, sometimes more than I should, and I'm in the process of starting a company to give more jobs back to this community.
Hi, my name's Curtis Brandt. I hold the portfolio for infrastructure, and I do put a lot of time into it because as passionate as I am, like the chief, of make sure that we have clean drinking water. We need that here. Well, I don't want to see people sick or sicker for that. But for the rest of the portfolios, if somebody asks me a question about it, I try to find out the answer for them. So that's what I do. And I usually put in at least 30 to 40 hours a week at that band office on top of my job and looking after 3 small kids. It's tough. It's tough. But I'm here for the community, though. That's what I signed up for. Thank you.
So the question was really about governance. And so the council really is responsible for the health and the safety of the people that live here and the well-being, and that requires a lot of resources to provide what the people need. And so my job primarily is to lobby for money to address the needs of our community, whether it's housing or water or resolution of land claims, or to work with police to make sure that the community is safe. I must, however, get the motions of council before we can move ahead. And I try to achieve consensus among the council. It's far better if a team of horses are all running in the same direction instead of different directions. We can get more done. Oftentimes there are critical decisions about funding that have to be made within time frames. If we sit back and quibble with each other at the table, we're going to miss the boat and the opportunity to get funding that the community needs. There's currently 170 or so people on a wait list for housing. And there's also a lot of poverty yet in the community. And so tackling poverty is something that every government across the country is dealing with, and the housing crisis. We work with consultants. Oftentimes we have to have things engineered and costed out in order to qualify for funding from the government. And so there are rules when you apply for funding, and we have to follow them, or else the chance of our proposal or request is not going to be successful. And the results are evident in the community. There have been tens of millions of dollars brought to the community to improve the infrastructure in many areas. There's always more to be done. The education of the young people is important. The health of the seniors is important. We have to understand the demographics of the population to know what needs to be done or what should be done. Oftentimes my day starts at 5 o'clock in the morning answering emails. I get about 300 emails a day. And it's 7 days a week. I take my job very seriously. I lead the discussions when we lobby for funding. And I try to encourage all the council members to go. Sometimes I only have 2 or 3 to go for lobby sessions. The same likewise when we're at the land claim table to discuss the return of our land, the reacquisition of our land that's been lost, because right now most of the people that are on the ban list do not own any land. I think it's only about 12% of the membership own any land on the reserve. And so I did ask the department for a report on the number of certificates of possession there are, and how many band members own land. So the reacquisition of land is very, very critical to the future of the next generation. And so we're working on that.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but can we just stick to governance before we move on to lands?
And governance, we derive our lawmaking authority from the Indian Act, Section 81 of the Band Council bylaw powers. We have 17 bylaws. The problem that we have in our governance structure is that there's no ability to enforce Indian Act bylaws anywhere in this country. And so laws are no good if they can't be enforced by the police or courts don't hear them. So the choice for the council for our future is to set up our own court system and have our own prosecutor. That's the only way around that. And so that weakens the governance of our community. We hear what the people want to see happen, but again, the council can make a law, but it's a toothless tiger if there's no mechanism to enforce it. So the chiefs of Ontario have decided to take both the federal and government to court with this weakness in First Nations governance. And so you'll be hearing more about that in the future. But by and large, we try to accommodate the will of our people the best we can with the tools we have to work with. And oftentimes in our lawmaking process, we will go to the community if something is controversial, and we'll ask that law to be voted on by the people, such as the cannabis bylaw that we had several meetings about here in the community center. And when it came time for the vote, there was only just a little over 300 of the people that voted on it. So the council didn't feel it was a strong enough mandate, in particular when the reserve was pretty much evenly divided for and against it. So that's an outstanding issue that has yet to be addressed by the council. But we do the best we can with the resources we have, and I think we've made tremendous progress in terms of our infrastructure with probably about $150 million invested in our community over the last few years. Thank you.
Can we start back and can we go through each individual? And so like Linda, what portfolio do you hold and what does that actually mean? We were talking before the meeting, and it's not actually taught in Quinte Mohawk School, and a lot of people in our community don't actually know how the council interacts and impacts their portfolios. So I'm interested to know, Linda, what's your portfolio?
Health and social.
Okay, so health and social. So what does that look like? Do you meet with health and social, like program managers? Are
With
you
the managers, because I meet with the managers when I can, when I'm not in meetings with council, and or if I'm not at board meetings, I go, and it's with the social and with the health side. So with the social side, I work under the Health and Safety Advisory Board. So I sit on that board and we talk about the Jordan's Principle. We talk about us taking over the, our own CAS and those kinds of things. So I do interact with those guys.
but like at the sort of management level, not necessarily at the program level?
No, at both. So I try to go to all their meetings the best I can. So I go when they just have all staff meeting, and I'll go to those and sit in those. And then sometimes I'll go to their director meetings.
Okay, and then
And
just
also what I do is with the social and the health side, that's why I sit on the advisory board.
okay, and just for myself in the community, if we could go through each person's portfolio and what that actually means. So Aaron, you talked about being a part of the education committee and starting a parent council.
Parent involvement committee.
Yeah.
Can I go next? Because
No, no,
we
yeah, but-
went through that line.
I was-
So you jumped by me.
No, no,
to
sorry,
go
I was
down
just
to
giving an
Aaron. I
example.
was just wondering.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, yeah, I'll go next. Can you hear me? Anyway, like I had mentioned before, I'm a part of the Parks and Recreation. What I've done, or like I mentioned already, is that I am sitting on behalf of council on the board for an arena design. We haven't started the meetings yet. I'd like to get them going, but baby steps. Baby steps in the beginning goes a long way in the end. Okay, and I know everybody's in a hurry to have it done right now, but sometimes it doesn't happen that way. So, but be assured that it's going to happen. All right? Something like this year, we've had some I guess not complaints, but concerns with the graveyard, the upper graveyard. Has anybody been by that to see how well it's cleaned up? All of those great big dead trees are now gone. It's all nice. It's a great graveyard now. And was it a couple weeks ago, there was a cleanup down at the lower churchyard, picking up all the branches and stuff from the high winds and the storms that we've had. So that's a part of my portfolio. Another thing is I've been working on, along with Chip also, is I've heard over the last couple of years that our launches for boating, for the boaters, for people from the reserve to be able to launch their boats. And I was more concerned with the launch down at the Ferry Lane. And the reason why is because of our fire and rescue boat. The way the launch was before, it dropped off. There's been multiple trailers actually stuck on that launch. It was a hazard. It is now 100% fixed. If you've never been down there, go and check it out. The docks are brand new. The launch is so smooth and anybody can use it. And yeah, it's just, that's a part of what I do, or what I've been doing. And hopefully, like I said, a little bit farther in baby steps, because nothing happens overnight. Yeah. I guess, yeah.
Excuse me. So I am the education portfolio holder. So with that, we we have monthly meetings with the department heads of all of the different education facilities. So Oahaze, Hope, Quinny Mohawk School, Daycare, East Side, the Hastings Prince Edward School Board. I've met with Loyalist College. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. So I'm available to the management. I work with Sandy, who's the new education director. She's fantastic. She keeps me apprised of anything that she thinks that I should know. If there's things that she thinks that I can do or be of help, or things that she needs brought to the table, I'm able to work closely with her for that. If any of the department heads are seeking anything, they're able to come to me. Any of the staff are able to come to me if they have any questions. I've met with parents. I've met with individual staff, groups of staff. They're able to approach as they would like.
The parent committee meeting, is that for Quinny Mohawk School and the high schools? And can parents attend?
So what is in the process of being developed is a parent involvement committee. That might not be what it ends up being named, but just for general purposes. So what it is it will be like a parent-teacher association. So it'll be developed in all of the locations. So all of them. So is this separate from what's going on? So what you have now is going to continue, and then this is going to be in addition This
to?
is for parents, yep. So what we do now, anybody can come and talk to any of us for anything, realistically. Any staff, any community member can come and approach any of us. For the most part, we work together and try to get the answers the best we can. This specifically, the Parent Involvement Committee, will be, so if you have children at Quinny Mohawk School, then you would be invited to sign up to be on that Parent Involvement Committee. It's just at the terms and references stage now. They are actively seeking volunteers, parent volunteers for that committee. At Quinny Mohawk is where we've started. I don't know that they've started at all of them yet. It's kind of the first go at it. But the idea is hopefully that they will be at all of the locations.
So with public safety, I look after police, fire, ambulance, and emergency response, or emergency preparedness, I guess. Basically, when community members reach out, I try and get a resolve to their complaints or their issues. There's been a few complaints, hasn't been really that much. With housing, there's I've only been on it for a couple months. I know I don't attend all the meetings, like the Housing Selection Committee. I attend as many as I possibly can, but a lot of time it interferes, like my work interferes or council meetings interfere. So yeah, that's about it.
And as I said, I hold the infrastructure, and infrastructure takes up quite a bit. It takes up roads, our recycling, what else? It's all our water. There's a pile. There's a pile. There's our environmental services. That also. It's a pile. It is a pile. Especially when you're trying to put in new water. It is very difficult with the staff that we have to make this all happen fast. And our problem is that our lobby efforts are paying off with the government, for the ISC, for this. And the faster we get it in, is the better off that we're going to be. Only for the simple fact is that if we keep waiting, well, we are waiting, but it's going to just keep escalating in costs, and it's going to be really bad. But that's mostly what I look after. But as I said, I put a lot of time into this because this is what I like doing.
I really appreciate that, and that's actually a lot of information that I didn't know.
I'd just like to add something in to reiterate on what Aaron was saying, is that in council, if I run into a problem, let's say with the docks and the ramps, I had Chip help me. Aaron has help from Linda. Linda has help from myself. Everybody helps everybody. We try to, so if anybody in the community wants to come to any of us, we can look for the answers or go to those who can try to get the answers. And another thing that we didn't mention, where we all sit, is on a committee, on a board, which is the golf board. So we're all a part of that. But that, I think that is to come a little bit later, yeah, in the economic development. So anyway, so that's another board that we all share as a team.
I just wanted to say thanks.
So in terms of our capital plan, we have to submit a capital plan on what we see needs to be done in the community, 5 years and 10 years and a 20-year capital plan. And so currently with water, right now we are 5 years ahead of schedule because of intense lobby with the government, because of pushing multiple government departments to chip in and help with the water issue in the community. And so we opened the door on through lobby sessions with the Infrastructure Canada, the Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Fund, which brought $30 million here. That helped us get our water treatment plant and lines built. There's much competition out there for scarce money. And so strong advocacy is necessary to be able to get our share. And I think we've got a little bit more than our share, but there's currently 226 homes, 22.6 kilometers of road that still need water lines. There's the Lower Slash Road, the north end of Bells Road, Snooki's Lane, that area, the Middle Slash Road need water. And so we have submitted a proposal to the Department of Housing, Infrastructure Canada Fund. There's $1 billion across the country. And so the competition is fierce there to get money, but we're hopefully that we've got a strong enough case with all the studies that we have been done over the years on water to demonstrate that a communal water system is the only way that we can solve our long-term drinking water problem. So we studied it to death, and those studies are paying off and helping us make our case with the government to get the millions of dollars that this community needs. So hopefully we will see some diggers in the ground soon.
To answer this question specifically as well, this is a question that was submitted. It's asking what procedures or actions is Chief and Council taking to ensure the community gets elected officials that will take their positions seriously and earn their honorarium. So the holding of portfolios isn't something that is defined in the Indian Act. It's something that a lot of band councils choose to do. I think it's to give us a little bit more direction and to make sure there's not everybody duplicating services. People have a clear stream of who they can go to get some guidance. So that is kind of hard to hold, I guess, a standard to it or to force anybody to do. It would really be, I guess, up to the community to hold us accountable to make sure that we're doing our job. I think that's really important. In terms of this question as well, counselors are not able to miss more than 3 meetings. That is something that is put into the Indian Act, is that you're not able to miss 3 meetings in a row without letting any of the staff know, or the rest of the band, council, sorry.
They're supposed to let the chief know.
Yes,
They're not
we let the
council.
chief know if we're unable to attend, something comes up, our kids are sick, whatever happens. We all are all pretty good, I think, to let each other know that we're unable to attend. So the Indian Act also doesn't outline any consequences for missing multiple meetings, the minimum meeting attendance requirements, anything about the portfolio systems, or anything about honoraria. So that's really something that I think would be beneficial to the community to hold us accountable for. So if you feel that a member of council isn't doing their job or performing to the best of their ability or doing what's in best interest of community, then it would be up to the community to not vote them in or to bring it up and make us aware, and then we can talk about it.
So according to the Indian Act, what is your actual general power? Because you said the portfolio is something that you guys have kind of created to manage the responsibilities, but what, according to the Indian Act, is your power?
Section 81 of the Indian Act defines it.
Can you answer that?
If you,
Okay, so we'll just skip ahead because I think it's the next question.
if you Google Section 81 of the Indian Act, the bylaw making powers of the council are there.
Did you put it on the slide? Well,
Yep.
oh, perfect.
So the next question is, what is the role of chief and council, and what are the powers they possess to make change? So these are the points here too, if you would like to read. Does anybody else want to read?
And so you
There's
have
lots-
excerpts from the Indian Act on that?
Okay,
It's a good question.
sure.
Well, I'm just assuming because we as community members put our questions forward and we were hoping you were going to answer them,
Yep.
so.
So the chief and council are elected by community members to govern the community affairs. So the roles include governance, so mainly making decisions at the council meeting. So when things come forward from different programs, different community members, there is a process. So for example, if there's approvals needed for applications or to build a new subdivision or deciding where the next subdivision is supposed to go, that would fall under the governance of chief and council. And then it's up to us to bring that to the community for consultation, of course. TMC represents MBQ to outside government, so other First Nations, federal, provincial, and municipal organizations. So as Chief has mentioned previously, there's a lot of networking that happens, so a lot of meetings with different organizations, so AIAI, Chiefs of Ontario. Chief often meets with, who's the person?
Well, we could meet with anybody from the prime minister to the premier to ministers to senior bureaucratic officials to neighboring mayors and their councils, or community members, or interest groups, or environmental groups. There's a whole variety of people, or it could be unions sometimes in terms of if they're drumming up for a particular cause. It can be a variety of things.
So in that, was Tyndall Mohawk Council the one that approved the survey for the, is that how that survey got approved? Is that within the Tyndall Mohawk Council to
What
approve
survey?
that? The survey that went around that cost $1 million for the land, the Culbertson track. So as I'm asking about the general powers, was it the Tyndall Mohawk Council that approved that survey? The expense for the survey?
Yep, that would have been approved by the previous council.
Okay, and then that survey,
don't
did you talk
think-
about last time that survey was that it didn't count, that we couldn't use that survey because it didn't have enough input?
No.
No, something different.
Like the cannabis, we talk about the cannabis,
Because when we talked last week, our last time, everyone was very interested in the Culbertson track information, and then that's where kind of things went sideways. And I looked back at the YouTube video, and the YouTube video had the thing on the screen, and it said that the survey was unsuccessful and there was no update.
I think that was for the cannabis law that they were speaking about, so how long ago did that go?
Well, they had government funding to do that too.
But when did that survey happen?
So was there an update on the Culbertson track then? Because I must have, because I looked back and.
I don't recall it costing $1 million for the Culbertson survey. There was.
Okay, so I'm talking about the
a
Culbertson
vote.
survey. So you guys approved the Culbertson, well, not
There
you
was
guys, the previous
$100,000
council.
Yep.
Or
paid to
was
Dan
it the,
Brandt.
or was it the chief?
No, the previous council would have approved it.
Okay, and is that in the governing powers under the Indian Act?
Yes.
You should talk to them because you were
The chief doesn't have sole power to approve budgets. It's the council as a whole.
Okay.
I don't think she knows this. She's asking that as well, but just to help answer it because
So
it was 100 grand, 100 million.
the only direct employee of council is the CAO. So the CAO would manage all of the directors. The directors then manage their managers and staff accordingly. And we speak directly with the CAO. The CAO brings us information to the table to each meeting and in between as is needed, and when things need approval. Advocacy was something we had just talked about. Land and resources, so the responsibility for reserve lands and band monies, including our own source revenues, is something that council deals with. We are accountable to the community.
Aaron?
Yeah.
Just sorry for,
Yeah.
sorry for,
No, that's okay.
there was a question, who is the CAO? Oh, right now?
The acting CAO currently is Angela, so we don't have a CAO in the present moment. So she's acting. So council exercises the powers at council meetings with quorum present. The powers stemming from the Indiana Act include financial management, so monitoring MBQ finances, seeking economic development opportunities for our own source revenue, lawmaking, land use, programs and services, negotiations and representations of the community. And then although council powers are limited by the Indian Act and ISC oversight, council is able to make changes through motions and resolutions establishing community bylaws. That is something that I think is what community has mentioned that they would like to see. And it's a lengthy process, but it is definitely something that is in the works and that we're actively chatting about how we get the bylaws, how we establish them, how we enforce them, thank you. How we're actually able to enforce them, including having our own court system if that's what need be. Akwesasne has a court system that they use currently, which is something that we've would like to really look into how we do that here.
Aaron, could I add on that?
Yeah.
Just adding on to that, everybody talks, yeah, it's a shame that when we fix up a road, that put new pavement down, and then we've got speeders. There's speeders all over the place. But anyway, like we talked about, we can make bylaws. We can do these bylaws. But the chief had talked about earlier about we cannot enforce bylaws because we need our own
Justice
justice
system.
Yeah, we need our own justice system. I believe Akwesasne has theirs, Brantford has theirs, and we would like to get it here. So what happens is that if our police catch somebody speeding, that money from that speeding ticket goes to Belleville. We can take all of the late charge, whatever, any kind of, without our own judicial system here. If we did have one, all of those speeders that were caught, the money from those speeding tickets would come to us then. So something so small, and I didn't understand that before, but I do now. So hopefully that helps you understand of our police do try to keep the speeders at bay, but they can't be everywhere at the same time either.
Okay. My understanding, Chris, just for correction, that some of the money does come back here, some of it. A percentage does come back to the band. Some of it goes to court because obviously those things are dealt with in the court in Belleville because we don't have a court system or a prosecutor.
So the next question in governance is why does the chief have the ability to sign away land and money without the consent of the people?
Well, first of all, since it's about the chief, I'll answer. I have never signed away any land. And I'll go back to when the proposal was to surrender Shannonville, the 200 acres. Jean certainly can tell you that the community was bitterly divided over that because she got charged and taken to court over a fight that she had with the then chief. And so there was a lot of debate and division in the community about whether Shannonville should be surrendered or kept. And I was told I was crazy because the government will never buy those houses in Shannonville. Said if the government can't afford to buy 26 houses, the Dominion government of Canada, there's something wrong with their finances. And so it wasn't beyond the ability to return that land to the band. It was a lease that was never performed, with flour being delivered on time. The payment was inadequate for the use of that land. And so when it was late, our council challenged it. We said your lease is broken, and we took them to court. And that ended up in a settlement of the homes were all bought up and turned back, and now band members live there instead of non-Indians. We've just recently completed a study on the loss of use of that property, and it's in the millions of dollars, anywhere from $21 to $100 million. It will depend on whether or not the government can prove they delivered the flour. In 1830, when the government issued Turton Pen a lease, it was a crown lease, and the government became responsible for the administration of the lease because it was a crown lease. If you're the administrator, then you have to account for what you've done with that asset and that property. So that's where we're at with that. So we hope to be able to bundle that loss of use claim along with the 20 acres that we purchased in Culberson claim and the 185 acres Marysville Golf Course into one package to get reimbursed for the land acquisition costs plus loss of use from 1830 on. And so that claim will be in the millions of dollars. And again, there will be another referendum vote to get land back. I have never been an advocate of signing any land away. Not one single teaspoon of land have I ever advocated to surrender or alienate land. We've got land back under my leadership. Turton Pen came back, and there was a fight. I fought to get it back. Culberson, we made it very clear to the government we had no mandate from our people to surrender any land, and we were not going to have that kind of conversation. I had the council pass a resolution to say we are not here to surrender anything. We are here to get our land back and loss of use compensation. And that's exactly what happened. We didn't have to surrender anything on that Culberson proposal. Because there's so many different parties to deal with, it will take time. It took 16 years to get all the Turton Pen property bought up, but it's all back to the reserve now. And now we just have to file our loss of use claim, which we will do, and we will ask you to vote on that, and it'll be at the discretion of the membership if they accept it. So it's not up to me alone to do anything. It's up to the council, and when it comes to the land coming back, it's up to the people, not up to the chief.
And to add to that, so under the Indian Act, the chief doesn't have unilateral authority to make decisions, so he doesn't not have the power to sign away land and money. Chief and council make decisions on behalf of the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte regarding land, funding, programs, and services through council motions or Mohawk council resolutions. So under the Indian Act, community approval is not required for those decisions. And in some circumstances, if there is a very time-sensitive issue, chief and council may make those decisions in the best interest of the community, but chief is not able to make those decisions on his own.
Or any member of council, it's the council as a whole.
Yes, or any.
But the alienation of land isn't, the council has no authority whatsoever to alienate any property. The only way that can be done is a surrender voted on by the majority of the people.
So chief doesn't actually vote in any of the meetings. He's able to vote if there is a tie between the councils. The council is who votes on any of the resolutions or the motions. So no motion can pass without the approval from council. So there needs to be the majority vote for a resolution or
So
a motion.
all I can give the council is my advice, what I think they should do, but it's up to them to make that decision. And oftentimes, if they don't listen to my advice, they'll later regret it.
This is something we've,
No, but I'm just, we have to have a little bit of humor in our meeting too.
I'd like to address something, and I guess maybe I'm very confused, but I don't want people going home tonight being as confused as I am. We talked about bylaws, and you're being told we can't make bylaws. But as we speak, I see funding notices come to us from various government departments saying, here's $50,000 to engage in the bylaw making process within your community, AIAI dollars. Here is money from Justice Canada if you want to pursue prosecution if someone has breached a bylaw and you want to set an example and have somebody prosecuted for breaking a bylaw. There's money available for that. So my question is, why is all this money available as we speak, but we're telling you we can't make bylaws? When I worked here, we made bylaws. I helped prepare bylaws. But all of a sudden, now we can't make bylaws. It comes down to two words: political will. We can make bylaws, but there's going to be repercussions. A lot of people don't like laws, but we can do it. If you want it done, we can do it. But for the next meeting, I would like you people to do some research on your own and come back and say, hey, Chris, you're out to lunch. Okay, Chief and Council cannot make bylaws. And I will apologize. But based on everything I've seen, I've experienced, we can make bylaws. So some of you people come back to the next meeting and tell us all what you learned about bylaws. That's your assignment. Thank you.
So we have 17 bylaws, and the council's not made any bylaws in a number of years on anything. The council can make bylaws under Section 81 of the Indian Act, but if they want to enforce them, they are going to have a lawyer to do what's called a private prosecution. There is money available to review your bylaws, and I put that information before council, but council and suggested they get a lawyer to review those bylaws because obviously the law changes over time, and those laws may have to be updated, and maybe they're no longer relevant to now. There is, but again, the enforcement part of it, I can tell you, when we get an eviction, if somebody's not paying rent and destroying one of our houses, it can cost $10,000 to $15,000 to get a court order, because that's the only tool that the council has to work with to get a court order to put somebody out. So we should really have something like a landlord-tenant board that has jurisdiction that could hear these things in the community, and it could be a community decision that was enforceable by the police. Because the landlord-tenant board, if somebody doesn't pay off the reserve, they can give an order and the police will act on it. Here they don't. They say that they need a court order, otherwise they can be charged with assault if they can't act on council resolutions or ban bylaws. And this is exactly why the chiefs of Ontario are taking the federal and provincial government to court over it, because it creates a weakness in governance.
I just wanted to address something that just happened. Chief, you made a quote joke, and it, for me personally,
I
it was about,
apologize.
no, but I just want to explain, and this is a learning opportunity for everybody, that it's different if you and I are having a private conversation, but honestly, I take significant offense to you and your behavior because I'm here as a community member just trying to have my voice heard, and all I hear is that's very educated. So my position is that when you have all of the power as the chief, it's really important when we come as community members and as counselors too, to really remember that there's a huge power differential here. You guys have influence, you guys have ability, you guys meet with program makers regularly, so I'm just asking for you to take the consideration of the vulnerability of the community that comes here, because a lot of people don't come for this reason. I was physically assaulted twice at the last meeting, and that's unacceptable. I'm literally called stupid by this young man, and his mother's sitting here like not doing anything about it. That's extremely abusive.
Okay.
So this is, and she's a police officer, so this literally goes towards the community and the way that we
Okay.
conduct ourselves, and the fact that we don't even feel safe as a community to show up and have our voice heard.
Actually,
Okay,
you're
I
right.
think- I
A
think
lot of
that's-
people.
I think that's enough there. I think that's fine. That's enough there. In relation to the comment, I, for one, didn't think that it was anything that was to be offended of. And if I can get any hands in the audience, anybody else that maybe was or was not offended, raise your hand if you were offended by the chief's comment.
The joke.
I
Were
think
you
we, I
offended by
think,
the joke?
yeah, his comment joke.
Well, he wanted to see hands so that he could see who thought it was a joke.
Yeah, if
Because
people,
I heard a lot of
hold
people
on,
laughing.
hold on. The issue that was brought up was a comment that was made by the chief, and can you quote that once again?
I just said that the comment that was made by the chief, that it was disrespectful and that it was abusive. That he said that if the council doesn't listen to his recommendations, that they will later regret it.
I
Okay,
said quite
no,
often.
Hold on. Now that's fair. That's fair that you felt that way. Did anybody else here feel that way over the comment? And
But
if
this
you did-
also-
If you did feel that way, please raise your hand so we can see. You weren't here, you weren't even here.
And nobody.
So with that being said, I think that we can continue.
And so can we address the issue that I'm literally standing here and having somebody call me stupid? And
Yeah.
you're the moderator?
Yeah,
And you
that's
think
not-
that's respectful?
No, that
And that's
isn't
something you're
respectful.
not even gonna comment on?
Well, if I can get to it. We have a responsibility to one another as a community, because what she's saying is absolutely true. We need to hold our feelings when we don't agree with somebody else. So we have to mind what we say. A comment that was made by the chief wasn't taken it wasn't taken the same way by everybody, and you had expressed that, and that's fine. But we do have a responsibility to one another to be respectful to each other. You addressed that, which I believe you did that in the right way. The other things that were said as a product of that being brought up, I would encourage you guys to maybe keep those things to yourselves, because we don't need to turn that into this, and that's why I was asked to be here. So, now that we have that out of the way, if we feel like we can continue, I think we continue with what's on the agenda here. Tuknegel. Did you think I was Storm?
So the next question under governance is, since the minutes of the band council meetings are approved by council at the next meeting, so 2 weeks later, why are they not posted on the website at that time? So the council minutes are updated on our website as soon as they are able to be. So they get approved at the next meeting. If they are approved, sometimes they need to go back for changes, and even if they are approved, they might need to still go back and make some changes. So as soon as those changes are then able to be made, they are posted as soon as they are finished. So it's not necessarily the exact 2-week turnaround that they get done, but they are updated as soon as possible. So the minutes are often require revisions, and once all revisions are made, they're approved and posted. Without formal decisions being made, there are no minutes being recorded this evening. So there aren't minutes here because it's not technically like a formal council meeting. But you are able to watch this again on YouTube if you'd like to follow up. And all of the meetings that we have of regular council are live, so they are hosted live. If you're not able to watch them live on YouTube, you are able to go back and watch them later if you would like to, if you would like more up to the minutes, live minutes, I guess. Yeah.
I have a question. I've not been to the other meeting, so I'm kind of not sure. Can't I hear you? I wanted to ask the question. If you have a question regarding something on it, you just go to the mic, or how does that work?
Sure,
Yes,
yeah,
that's-
absolutely.
That's what you do.
Yep, yep. Okay. And
That would be two.
I want to ask the chief, when you said that there was a low percentage of band members owning land here,
That's correct.
I think that's kind of a, I don't know how to say it, but there's a lot of people that have money that buy up all the property, so therefore it drives the value way up, so most community members and their families can't buy anything because it's already either taken or it's so overpriced that they can't possibly. What could we do about that? Or what is being done?
Well, the council for many years have had a policy, a motion on council is what it is. It's not a policy. It's just a motion of council that you could not own more than 500 acres of land unless you were farming it. And so there are some people that have reached that quota and they can't have any more land. But what they do is they buy it and then put it in other family members' names. And what you're saying is very true. The business people have a lot of money and they can afford to buy land where other people, younger people that are starting out, can't afford to buy land.
I'd like to, being a part of my portfolio is lands, and with that in mind, it was council a long time ago that passed that bylaw about having 500 acres. I think that's got to be changed. I honestly do, and because I'm the portfolio holder, I'm going to ask the community, should we change that? Now, a couple other things as I had in mind about that particular situation is that, so somebody with money puts it into the children's names, and then the grandchildren's name, then the whole family owns the reserve. I think a family as a whole can only own so much land and not pass it down. Because just by doing that, you know right well that the great-grandchildren aren't buying that land. It's a great-grandpa that's buying the land because he's got the money, putting in their name for their family. So anyway, that was my thought. We haven't really discussed that at council, but I just wanted to put that out to the community. And that number's got to come down because numbers of people on Tyendinaga are going up and the amount of land is coming down until we start getting these lands back that we've been after, or that council has been after for so many years. So anyway, that was my thought. You know what? But the funny, well, it's not funny. You can't change the past. You can only move forward. So you can talk about something that's happened in the past. It's happened in the past. You can never change that. You can learn from that, and you can walk forward and make maybe better decisions or other decisions, whatever. But I don't think, with that in mind, I don't think that is up to the council to decide. I think that has to be decided amongst the people, everybody. So anyway, it's just
If you, if you would follow the minutes, you would see that the council has bought up a lot of land, and the council does have a lot of land in its land bank. The problem is that the land is not serviced with electricity, with roads, surveyed into lots, so that band members who don't have land have a chance to buy a lot somewhere. So lot servicing is very, very important for the future of housing for the young people, so that's one of the issues that the council should address. They have money. They need, the housing director has advocated that they need subdivision development, but it requires a decision of council to do that. So people call my house all the time, do you know anybody who's got land to sell? families are hanging on to the land for their own family relatives, and so the person whose family doesn't have a lot of land finds it very difficult to find a place to build because of the price and because of the families hanging on to it for their own family. And I guess there is the question of what should be done with the Culberson land, the 293.4 acres of land that has been required, and there's been different decisions, suggestions about having a plaza, about making a subdivision, and about having it for agriculture. But there needs to be a plan for our land.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of land, but there's no plan on what to do with it.
Jumping back quickly for the bylaws, we've discussed that before this council was in, and I thought we were going forward to do something because when you drive around the territory, we spend hours cleaning the roads, all the garbage that's there all the time, things dumped off. Now we're seeing all these trailers dragged in here and people living in them. They're not livable. So who's going to, in the end up paying for all the health care for the people that's living in the mold and the, these trailers? Like I just saw a couple more today, and I'm like, how can people live in them? And I'm just, my question is, where are we going forward to do something, to have action, to stop all these
Well,
trailers from moving on to the territory?
I think what needs to be done, Lou, is that we need to take a census, first of all, to see who's living here, to make sure that the people who are living here are members of the band. And because I believe that there's many people living here are not members of the band. And so I think that's where we need to start. And I've suggested to Set Council we should hire somebody to do a census on who is living here and are they members of the band and do they have the right to live here. Because there's a lot of people just bringing a lot of other people here and nobody knows what they're all about, but there are some serious concerns.
When I was doing the census, I was told not to go in certain lanes, and in those areas were not native living.
And who told you that, Darlene?
Three main areas.
And I know the police are taking action in certain cases, so I don't want people to think that the police are not doing anything, because they are.
So the next thing up in the agenda is the elder care home. So the question that came in was, when will the elder care home be operational?
Okay, can I answer that?
Yeah.
So the target date for substantial completion of the building is in September the 21st, 25, and total completion is supposed to be in December 15th, 25, according to the schedule. They're a little bit ahead of schedule, and they're on budget. The first resident we expect will move in February the 2nd, 2026. The resident wait list will open 90 days prior to the anticipated first resident move-in. And the ministry requirements for move-in is 14 people per week will follow for the first 7 weeks, and then 21 people per week until the home is filled. And these are ministry regulations that we have to follow because it is a licensed facility. And the next question was, what will happen? What will bed prioritization for elder care home be? Universal Care and our council have been, and our director of health services has been having conversations with the Ministry of Health to get in writing the following prioritization for beds. Mohawks, the Bay of Quinte are the first people to be considered. Other First Nations will be the second consideration, then everyone else after that. And this is how they moved into residence in elder care homes on reserves in Oneida, Wikwemikong, Akwesasne, and Six Nations. And so right now Oneida operates that way with the satisfaction of the Ministry of Long-Term Care. So elder care in the home is the manager of quality the same as the administrator of the new LTC home. I think there is actually a separate person that's required for quality of care. And what I would propose to do is have a special meeting on long-term care, one in the afternoon for elders and one in the evening for everyone else, where the Ministry of Health, Ontario Health at Home, our consultant could come and answer detailed administrative questions. My job as the chief is to make sure that the money is there to finish the project, that we maintain our license in good standing with the province, much the way we do with the daycare, and that the funding is sufficient. It was not easy to get funding for long-term care for First Nations. A few years ago, I raised this question with the Chiefs meeting, and we did some research, and we found out that there was chronic underservicing of First Nations, both in home and community care and long-term care. First Nations, of the 75,000 beds, only had 1/4%, 226 beds of 75,000 across the province. So Pat Madabi was the Grand Chief who chaired our Chiefs Committee on Health. I represented AIA on the Chiefs Committee on Health. And so because I spoke the most about it, they appointed me to be the co-chair along with the Deputy Minister Sherry Lee Smith from, it was called the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care at the time. So we had a trilateral committee, Infrastructure Canada, Indian Affairs at the time, CMHC, FedDev, the Ministry of Housing, and the Ministry of Long-Term Care, Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care. And so the goal was to have a collaborative approach, first of all, to get the province to allocate licensing, because the funding for capital and operating comes from the province. And so we were able to get the Wynne government to make an opportunity for First Nations to express an interest in building a long-term care home. Many of them did. We did. Our council passed a motion to put forward an expression of interest. Then the question is how to address the capital. And we knew that the First Nations did not have a lot of money to build for the capital. And so through a collaborative approach, the outcome for here was Infrastructure Canada provided $25 million toward the building of our long-term care, the first time they had done that anywhere in Canada. The Minister of Indian Affairs, Mark Miller, provided $5 million, the first time anywhere in Canada. The CMHC provided a grant of $6 million plus a low interest rate loan. The province of Ontario, through the Ministry of Long-Term Care, will provide $48 million over 25 years to pay a low interest rate loan from CMHC. Plus, I've raised close to $1 million to the band's share through corporate sponsors and other fundraising initiatives. And so my job about the budget is in place. The province contracted with Doug Ford. Doug Ford's government contracted with Universal Care. Many of you will recall when the COVID was running rampant in long-term care homes, he contracted with Universal Care to go and work with those other homes that were experiencing problems to bring that under control. So they had the confidence of the government. And so with that, they came highly recommended by the Ford government to run our home. And as a result of that, they're finalizing our agreements, our operating agreements. And so the manager of quality is a different position. The position oversees the quality as well as supports the administrator. It is like an assistant administrator. The administrator is responsible for hiring all the other staff. Our long-term care will preference be given to our community members. Hiring priorities will be Mohawks of the Bay Quinte first, provided they have the qualifications that are necessary. And I think the staff have recently published all the positions that are there. I think there's 174 positions and what the qualifications are for those jobs. First Nations Technical Institute have been working with a college to train registered practical nurses as well as personal support workers. They've graduated a number of them, PSWs, and they're working on RPNs. So that our people have first priority, but they have to meet the educational qualifications to meet the licensing requirements. Elder care home, will salary grids for the position be posted? Yes, for the frontline staff, but not for the non-union management staff. There is not currently a union. However, most long-term care homes that operate in Ontario they are unionized. The union rates of pay will be used, however, to be competitive in recruitment. So if you try to pay less than the union rate, you'll have a tough time getting people to apply. Elder care home, are all the financial services managed by Universal at their head office? Yes, the administrator and office manager will code the invoices and the home at the home, and the Universal Care will process them for payment. Universal Care will oversee all aspects of the operating and opening of the home. Universal Care will use their expertise in this area to manage a seamless transition from construction to opening. Universal Care is well respected by the Ministry of, with both political and bureaucratic connections. Universal Care has fostered a strong working relationship at all levels of government that will continue to assist in the MBQ long-term care home. Universal Care will report regularly to a committee identified by the Chief and Council. There will be 6 to 8 meetings per year. The dates will be identified annually. Will Universal Care coordinate with the community and health services about program services which they already provide? Universal Care are open to connecting with community well-being to identify where programs and services align for clients. So this afternoon, we had a conference call with the ministry on home and community care. And when people are transitioning from home and community care to long-term care, if they've had a PSW, they will be able to work with that person for a short period of time to make the adjustment in the long-term care. So those new regulations will come into effect for home and community services, but not in September this year. I can tell you with home and community care, 2022-23 budget, the budget was $14 million, then it went up to $17 million, and now it's $21 million for all of Ontario for 127 different funding agreements across Ontario. So really there isn't a lot of money per community when you spread that out over 127 communities for home and community care. Before, there were restrictions that a person could only have 4 hours a week for PSW. Now that's changed. It will be up to each First Nation depending on the level of resources they have. So how is council addressing 3 and 4 bedroom rental units? This is housing, so I'm going to turn that back to another speaker.
The last question under the elder care home is how will IT services be provided since many residents will have phones, TVs, computers, and other devices?
Okay, I can answer that. The televisions will be mounted to the walls, and all the rooms will be designed that way, where the TV's mounted to the wall in the room.
They'll also have a landline phone and internet in their suites.
That's correct.
So there will be a bulk service package. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you. For the people that are listening online, could you maybe go to the, or bring the mic to her so that the people online can listen to?
Please bring the mic to Barbara, please.
So her question, just so other people can hear, people on the internet can hear as well if you're watching on YouTube. Her question was, who will manage those IT services? Will it be Universal Care, MBQ, or the Chief and Council? Because the IT position wasn't listed on the papers.
They will contract out for those services. I don't know who they'll contract with at this stage, but normally that's part of the operation of the facility, so they would contract out for services.
Through Universal Care.
Yeah, or Universal are responsible for operating the home.
Okay. The housing question. So how is council addressing 3 and 4 bedroom rental units being occupied by one person? So that is the question.
I can say they've talked about it, but no decisions have been made at this point.
We've made decisions, I think. Do you want to answer, Gordon?
So it says, the MBQ rental policy does not permit for a single person or childless couple to be selected for anything higher than a 2-bedroom unit. However, family dynamics change over time and results in situations of over and under housing. We're working to address the issues of overhousing as prescribed by the question, but the solution is not as simple as eviction. Some of these tenants are seniors and involve working through a relocation process that can take time.
So this is something that has come to council, so we have been able to make some shifts for a few different families and houses where there might have been a senior living in a 3 or 4 bedroom house, which also wasn't suited to them either, being a senior and wanting something a little bit smaller, and in other situations when there was overhousing as well. So currently, how it would, there would need to be a bunch of different things that align to make it work. So there needs to be another available house that the person that is overhoused can move to. And then the next family can move in. So when everything does kind of line up, we are able to make those moves.
If I could add to that, there are young and middle-aged people who have addiction issues, very serious addiction issues. I had a call this past winter from the Trenton Police Office that there was a young person who was a member of in his 30s that belonged to the band from the reserve, and there had been some kind of trouble at wherever they were staying. So he was out in the cold, homeless, and so the only place they could keep him was in jail, simply because it was warm there. And I said, don't turn him out in the cold and freezing rain. And in February, we did have a member of our committee die of exposure in the hospital in Kingston, and as his mother was gravely ill, the family were trying to find the brother, and so there was a posting put on social media, and the social worker at the hospital saw it and called the family to let them know he was in intensive care, very critical. So housing people that have addictions, I think we need a special home where they have support services to help them in their recovery would be a better solution, but not to see people freezing to death. Also, there's a lot of people, because of poverty, find it hard to maintain adequate nutrition, and I think the council should invest more resources in our food resource center so that people have adequate food, proper food to eat.
I've given my thought. Greenhouses.
So the next question is for economic development and tourism. What are council's thoughts on creating more opportunities for economic development through tourism? So there is actually a visitor, tourist, and welcome center that is in the process of being developed. So it's in the very early stages, but it is planning to be built on Highway 49, just kind of after the lights in that section, going south, tentatively. And it will act as a hub or starting point for visitors to discover what our community has to offer. So there will be surveys going out on the website and social media to provide input on what you would like to see in that type of center. So that is something that is coming up.
There is a lot of tourism traffic that goes through our community. There's about 7,000 cars a day go through our reserve on its way over to Prince Edward County because it's a tourist destination. And I think there's a lot of opportunity here untapped, but it requires development. There's a lot of fishermen that come here in the wintertime to fish. There's a lot of people that go over there, but there's attractions. You need events going on that, like the powwow draws, for example, a lot of people. The Mohawk Fair draws a lot of people. So festivals tend to do that, or special events. Maybe there could be more done with lacrosse, because a lot of the young people here like to play cross tournaments and stuff like that, but it needs some investment in organization. In terms of there's $4 million now, close to $4 million in the TCDF to develop something for recreation. We just had
That's
our
where my
audit
arena is coming into effect.
yesterday.
I hope.
We had our audit yesterday, and I can tell you that your affairs are very well managed. We had a $30 million surplus, and so we are managing the funds quite well. So there's the other thing that we're getting some money back in our lobby sessions, which might provide money for tourism or other housing initiatives, is we built the Public Works garage. We call it the road shed on Slash Road. The department's looking at that because to me that's critical infrastructure. So I made a case. So Kyle Weir and I, who's the Associate Regional Director, have been friends for many years, and he asked us to get back our historic construction costs for both the Public Works garage and the CWC building. I've asked the staff for that, and we will be lobbying for reimbursement for that. We were fortunate enough to get the fire hall costs that we had taken out a loan with the Bank of Montreal. We lobbied and got $4 million back to pay for that, and so that loan has now been retired, and there's other money that we had paid is now back in investment. And so, but we can probably do the same thing with those other buildings, and that'll be a few more $1 million to help address the needs of the community. I was asked by Glenda Sam Miracle, there's a building that I think is called a CCAN building out front there. It sat there empty for years. She asked me today if the council would consider letting them use it. They need more office space, and she said they'd fix it up and they could use it. And I said I would take it to the council.
So,
But there's lots of land there to build the tourism center as well. There's lots of land there.
so that is all that was on the agenda for the leftover questions and what was submitted previously to this one. So the next general community meeting will be posted following TMC's next meeting, which is on June 2nd, so we'll arrive at a date. So there should be something happening again at the end of June, so tentatively June 25th, but don't quote me on that. You can use this website to submit questions for the next community meeting if you like. There is a quick link button that you can access from the MBQ homepage as well. You can use the little cue cards back here. I'm gonna eat this bug. There's cue cards back here if you'd like to write your questions down if you don't feel comfortable coming up and asking them, but you're also more than welcome to step up and ask questions if you have any now. Or send them in via Facebook as well.
In terms of the governance, that question came up. Quite often what I've seen in the council is they simply wait for the staff to make a recommendation to the council through the directors and their staff. I've encouraged the portfolio holders to meet from time to time with their director and managers to find out what's going on, what are the needs that are unaddressed. Because the best people that know are the frontline workers, and quite often I know because people call me when they can't get help anywhere else in the band organization. So I tend to try to do the best I can to get what the people need, but sometimes it has to be, there's not like a general pot of money that you can just use to address the needs. So sometimes we have to find new money from government to address an issue, which we quite often have been quite successful. But there's a lot of unmet need, and there is poverty, there is a lack of housing, there's a need for safe drinking water, there's a need to attend land claim settlements so we have something to bring to the people to vote on, something that's good. And it requires the attendance and participation of the full council to make success. And that's all I expect of them, to do the best job they can. And I know I can certainly tell you that I've given 120% of my time to better things in this community. That's usually 7 days a week.
Questions? If anybody else has any questions, now's the time. Step up to the mic so that the people online can also hear.
Chief, last community meeting, I had a question. I told you about everything with my unit. And you said if I didn't get an answer to let me know, or to let you know.
You didn't get an answer?
I didn't get a call, I didn't get an email.
I did request the staff to get in touch with you. I gave them your phone number.
Pardon?
I gave them your phone number.
Mm-hmm. Crickets.
Yes. Tom was supposed to give you a call back.
Tom?
Tom Crane.
Crane? Yeah. So that didn't happen, just like everything else that we spoke about before. So I just wanted to let you know that it didn't happen.
Okay,
So
thank
the
you for letting me
fact,
know.
like,
I'll make note of it.
when you say words and then actions don't follow,
What I asked was that if the staff didn't call you back to let me know, and thank you for letting me know.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I just have a couple of questions. I was looking at my notes and going back to November. We have come and circled around the same issues over and over and over again. And I find at the end of the meeting, there's no resolution. There's no next action step. So I find that very frustrating. Bylaws, membership, land availability, and housing comes up over and over again. No decisions are made, no plan for action is taken. So I think that's something. Erin, you said you're accountable, you want the members should be accountable, but if we don't know what you're doing or nothing is being done, then it's very difficult to hold you accountable, right? The other thing is I think that the questions that were posed tonight, they should be posted on the website. So people can go back and look at them and see just what I'm saying, the same things over and over and over again. It's very frustrating, right? An informed community is a community that can make good decisions. And I don't think we're there yet. The other thing is, I think that the surveys that are sent out, there have been a number of them. I faithfully answer everyone, give you a lot of information, then nothing. It's like it goes into a big black hole someplace. So where something was about a grocery store, something was about, well, the Culbertson, what people responded, they gave ideas. So, you know, there's no result, there's no report. People need to be informed. You need to report back. I watch almost every band council meeting on YouTube. I take notes because I want to be informed. I want to know what's going on in the community. I was away for many years, but now I'm here, I live here. I want to be ensured of safety, of quality of life, and I think that goes for everybody. For example, I was a teacher many years. I'd like to know what is the graduation rate for our secondary students? Are they doing well or are they not doing well? What's happening with the schools, you know? So we don't have any information about that. The chief speaks of the poverty that exists. I don't know that there are poverty. I look when I'm driving through the community, I see all these big, beautiful cars and boats and trailers and everything else. So where is the community poverty? We need to know about it for it to be credible, for us to decide what we should do about it. So those are just some of my concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Trent. Simple question, straightforward in regards to the 174 jobs for the Elder Center. Is there an education program in place to help some of our young people work towards getting the education needed to get some of those jobs?
Yes.
I mean, we're giving priority, giving the jobs priority to people in the community that have those.
So right now, First Nations Technical Institute did advertise learning opportunities to become PSWs and RPNs. And so people did sign up, and there are members of the community taking training there now. And then some people have graduated as medical doctors from Queen's University. We graduated 3, I think, a year ago. And so they might be interested in coming to work there. We also have graduate nurses from university. And so there are accountants. There are people that have, through our post-secondary education program, I am asking them to reach out to them to see if they'd be interested to come to work here as well.
That's great.
But there's learning opportunities. They're posted. I keep telling people, don't rely on just our website. A lot of people are old-fashioned. They want something paper in the mail. And they tell their grandchildren or their nieces, did you see this, did you see that? And then, you know, and communication. But it's up to the members to pay attention to the website, because that's where most of the band information gets posted. Now, I'll tell you, I spent a great deal of time, a little over a year ago, writing a community report. And on what we had worked on, what we had accomplished, and what work was yet to be done. I requested the council to publish that information. Kyle Weir was going to give us money to publish that report, and the council said it was too close to the election to post the information. But I believe that when council is going out of office, they have a duty to give a report on what did you work on, what did you accomplish. Because I said the people are not going to vote for you by what you say. They're going to vote for you based on what you accomplished, what you said and what you accomplished. And I said, to me, I just think that's what governments do. And so I've been tasked with writing another report, but I don't want it to go down the same lane that just only a few people see it. And if you'd like a copy, come to the band house and get one. Send it out, put it on our website. There is nothing wrong with the community putting out a report of what they're working on. what the results are of their lobbies. It shouldn't make anybody mad. If it brings money to the community to better the quality of life here, everybody should be glad about that.
All right, I was just wondering about what the status of that grocery store proposal was, and how far along it is, and who's going to be responsible for it, or whose portfolio it would fall under.
The proposal for,
The grocery store.
I didn't catch it. Well, again, there's been that idea put out there. There had been discussions with staff, and I firmly believe that the council should be involved in those discussions at the table with staff. It shouldn't be the CEO alone going to meet with somebody else and bringing back a report on what Costco said. You invite Costco to come to the council meeting and talk about the need, but again, the grocery store has got to be supported by the people. If they're going to run to Timbuktu to get something 10 cents cheaper and not support their own store, it will not work. You know, people said we needed a pharmacy here. Pharmacare did open a pharmacy here, and the people didn't use it. It was here for almost a year, and it closed up because the people would rather drive to Belleville and get their medication. If they drive, so really, that's really a critical thing, is will the people use it? And I think we'd have to also partner with a big chain store, because a small grocery store is not competitive with the prices that they buy in huge volumes for stores across Canada, so they get a better competitive price. So as a small grocery store can't compete with that. And so far, our economy is pretty much driven on cigarettes and pot and jobs in the band office or FNTI or the school. And we need to diversify our economy. The long-term care does that.
I think to answer your question as well too, is it is just very, very early in the preliminary questioning the community phase, looking to get ideas and how the community would feel about it. I don't believe there is a proposal at the moment that's out for any design or full development.
So
just in the early talking about it.
There have been discussions with Tim Hortons, and I did go to a meeting with, and some of the reserves do have Tim Hortons. I was told that they're not by somebody at the last, Chip and I went to a meeting with the procurement strategy for the city of Toronto a couple of weeks ago. There was somebody there who had worked with Tim Hortons, and actually a former classmate of mine, Roland Walton, was the president of Tim Hortons across Canada. And so I couldn't understand why they wouldn't be interested in coming to Tyndonega. Dan Brandt, again, and the CEO, they went and met with Tim Hortons and brought a report back, and so there's money in the travel and stuff. And so the council really isn't engaged in the discussion, and I think the council should be. I know when Earl was chief, the council, those people were brought to the table, and the staff and the council discussed it together around the same table. That's the style of governance that I like. Because everybody's on the same page, everybody hears the same information, you're not waiting for a report. Then if things need to be followed up, they can be brought up at that meeting and then followed up. You get better traction. When Donnie C. was the economic development officer a number of years ago, there was a survey put out again at that time of what would people buy in the grocery store. And again, it didn't go anywhere. But of course, the band didn't have capital then like they have now to be able to build anything. You know, we were lucky we had enough money to patch a road or buy a new grader truck then. But now the band has resources, and so if they wanted to build a store, they have the money to do it. But again, the success of it will be dependent on the people that use it.
I just wanted to ask, to kind of put the question out there, because there's an elephant in the room here. We've been talking a lot about housing. We have a housing council member who's disengaged from the housing process, talking about not being allowed or not feeling like he has oversight. And you guys talked about having the community hold the council accountable. So can you help us explain what is happening and how come we have a councillor that's not actively engaged in his portfolio? So I think that's for you. Chris, yeah.
So anybody that knows me knows I live and breathe First Nation housing. That's been my life's work. And I thought when I came back and I retired and I went on council, I thought I would have something to contribute. But basically I was told, we have consultants and somebody over there, basically be quiet. And the money's falling from the sky, so we're gonna hire nothing but consultants to reinvent the wheel. And probably I never shared with anybody is that I wasn't allowed to do my job. When I volunteered, they lodged grievances and complaints because I volunteered. When elders in this community called me and said, hey, we have an elder living in one of your rentals, 85 years old, house covered in dust from blasting for a couple of years, I sent an email to staff and chief and council, say, hey, if we need a power washer, we'll get one. That was harassment. That was harassment because by me asking on behalf of an elder, you're suggesting that the staff member has to do it. And then they hired a Bay Street lawyer to concur with that. And then they got our lawyer to concur with that. So I'm like, well, I can't say anything. If I volunteer, well, you're doing someone's job. If I ask on behalf of my elders, oh, you're not allowed to ask. But we have other counselors say, I can go to the band office every day of the week and ask questions. I asked a few questions above board, I volunteered, everybody and their dog, oh yeah, Chris, you can't say nothing, you can't volunteer nothing, and we're gonna pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to lawyers, consultants, and former employees. So why? Why? It was to dummy me up, shut me up. So that's why I can't say nothing, I can't do nothing. So why have the portfolio?
So as a community member, I'm asking council, how do we resolve this issue? Because moving along like the wheels aren't falling on the bus is not doing us any services. You come here and you say that you want to show up for us, you want to work for, quote, the people, but you can't even be the people with each other. I stood up here and I was told, like I openly said, I was assaulted twice at this last meeting, at the last community meeting. Not one of you said anything. Not one of you were like, and even as I openly brought it up, as someone sitting there calling me stupid and spitting at me and making me feel intimidated today in this, well, it was this. So whatever that was, the level of disrespect that is not being addressed, I believe, is why you're having so many issues on the council. So I appreciate the fact that Dehatni Gunrate is here to be the, quote, mediator. The way that you intervened was not appropriate culturally, and it wasn't appropriate Western, like, so I really want us to make sure that we are doing the jobs that we need to do so that everybody's peace can be protected. I don't like everybody in this room, and I don't expect everybody in this room to like me, but when we come in here, we are expected to think as a community to want something better for our children's children. And that's why I show up, and that's why I ask the questions that I do. And I'm hoping that you guys as a council can be better, that you guys can put your stuff aside and that you guys can actually start serving the community, because there are significant deficits in this community and there are people that are not being served. I hear you guys saying, come to me, you can talk to me and we'll talk to these other people. I know for a fact that that's not true, because I have specifically came to some of you and you just shut the door, or my concerns fell on deaf ears, and there were significant concerns, even violations of the criminal code. So I would like to see some accountability brought between you guys as you engage with each other, but I would like to see some respectful dialogue so that we can come together as people and have these conversations, so I don't have to be afraid of being called names, that I don't have to be afraid of being thrown around or knocked over when I'm here. Like, how can we put these basic things in place so that everybody can come and have their voices heard, so that we can start to have a safe community again? So maybe it starts with you guys actually rectifying your issues on council and then being the leaders that you say that you are for the community.
Okay.
So I hope that by the next community meeting, you guys can resolve some of your issues so that you guys can actually be a unit and show up for the community, because we need you guys.
Well, my grandmother always told me, when you're in public, you put your best foot forward. And to me, as the chief, sometimes it's very hard to achieve consensus among the council. And I don't expect them to agree with everything all the time. But at the same time, as I mentioned before, there can be rules and there can be information and a process that the government imposes on us that we have to comply with in order to get money. And it's not constant, it does change over time. The requirements, and of course, if we try to circumvent that, oftentimes our request will be denied and it won't be successful. And so I have to act on whatever the majority of the council votes on. When there's motions, if one's dissenting, then the majority rules. That's just how it is. I believe that Chris had good intentions in housing and good intentions with building the volleyball court. However, some of the parents also felt that it was too close to the road. After the volunteers had put a lot of time in it, I can understand why Chris was frustrated, because the council did encourage him to support him in the beginning with that. Volunteers did go ahead, but because of parental concern about where it was located, it was decided to move it to elsewhere. And the sand is still there. Nothing has been done with it since. There's just a pile of sand sitting there, and a project that's been approved by council that needs to be finished. And so to me, the staff are responsible to know what is going to happen with that project. Will it be completed, or is the council going to abandon it? It needs a council decision. Oftentimes I get frustrated because sometimes when I have to call the council, I have to call and call and call and call. I expect the council, they have cell phones from council, when there's something important to be done, to get back to me. That's a simple courtesy. If you sit on council, you shouldn't have to be dogged to pay attention to your phone, deal with the business, because sometimes there's critical decisions that have to be made. And I'm going to tell you, I do dog the council quite often, and I want that improved. As you've heard, I don't have an independent decision-making authority. I got to take it to the council, and if I can't get an answer, I can't answer the community.
Hi there. Just a general question, and I think maybe a follow-up. What do you think about the 2-year? Is there like enough time? Is there like a lack of continuity? Is it kind of a pain in the neck because you're trying to get the hang of things and then up for re-election again?
It's not enough time.
Not enough time? No?
Because when you first get in, because you're only here for 2 years.
Right.
So your first year in, you're looking at all the stuff that the last council did and trying to finish off all the stuff that they had put in place. So your second year in, you're trying to put in new policies and trying to do new things or do great things for your community, but you don't have enough time because now you're into another election.
Okay. Is that kind of a general consensus, or just?
I feel the same way. 2 years isn't enough. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm learning every day. I mean, I learned something tonight, thank you, that I didn't know about. So, I mean, you can't come in here and know everything there is to know about every portfolio or everything that happens in with the council, past councils, like even the chief brings up what council did when he was just starting. So that was like even before I was born, maybe.
No,
No,
not
no.
true.
So anyway, no, that was just a joke
Wasn't that
too.
long ago.
All right, that was a joke. Anyway, no,
I
just
can take a
saying
joke.
that it's not enough time, and like I can probably spend another 6 years and still not be up to date on everything. I mean, my head, the first year was like, I didn't know if I was coming or going because of so much information, and I'm just a hockey player. I never run into anything like this before. So absolutely not. 2 years is very, very short. And like I said, probably the next, if I decide to run again, well, like I still won't know everything.
Right.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, it must be hard to have like long-term plans for the community, because you got the community asking, what's our housing plan? What's our act dev plan? What's this? What's that? And only getting 2 years, some people might get 4 or 6 if they keep going, but having that guaranteed 2 years. What are the kind of powers, for lack of a better term, or authorities that council could make to say, hey, maybe we need 4 years?
Well, I can tell you, if you want to get something done, you have to put a lot of effort into it. You got to keep on it, and you got to keep after the government, because you're not going to go once and ask, and they're going to give it to you. Because the competition for money is pretty fierce. There's limited amount of money, and so the squeaky wheel will get the grease.
Right.
And if the wheel doesn't squeak very often, it's not going to get any grease.
I think we would need to go to a custom election code, if I'm not mistaken, to change the time.
we've had community meetings. Kelly's conducted community workshops and meetings on going to custom election. The problem is when there's a dispute, oftentimes the community gets very bitterly divided. People get bitter against one another. Oftentimes they have to go to a court to settle it, and by the time they get it settled, it's time for another election. I mean, you know, some of the communities have almost fallen apart over election disputes. I mean, Batchewana went on like that for years. Wata went on like that for years. Ganasadagi, the same thing. It's just a state of constant turmoil. And so when you have that, the community's not going to make any progress on anything because they're too busy fighting each other.
Okay, all right, fair. Thanks.
I've seen that in many where they have their custom election. That's what the outcome was.
Thank you.
So when you're going to run for office, then you've made a promise to the people. You're going to be there, and you're going to be their voice, and you're going to be part of a team, and you want to make progress on things that are important to the people, like housing, safe drinking water, education for the young people, tackling poverty, addressing addiction, ensuring that policing is adequate and keeping the community safe. And sometimes there's tough decisions that the council have to make in that regard, but you need to show up and make the decision because that's your job.
So a couple times Culbertson was raised. I'm curious, for the folks that are here tonight and those who are not here tonight, could we maybe have a meeting specifically on Culbertson? Or do you like this format of a little bit of everything? I think Culbertson myself requires its own meeting.
Yes.
And get everybody's input. And I'd like to see the children engaged, the elders engaged, the community engaged. And guess what, folks? We do it without a consultant. We do it in-house.
One thing I heard is they want more than talk. They want action.
Well, this way we get the input from the community telling us what it should look like as opposed to a consultant telling you what it should look like. And I'm just curious if the community would like to see a Culbertson specific meeting for planning for that land. Yeah.
Speaking of Culbertson, when it comes to land acquisition or reclaiming of land, thank you, thanks. I guess, reclaiming or reacquisition of land, probably not a fast process. What happens in the kind of minutia of that? Is there like all right, we're gonna get it in 90 days, let's make a plan for what we're gonna do with the land?
No, what happens when it's acquired, we have to go through the addition to reserve policy of the department. It has to be returned in an environmentally safe condition. Sometimes you have to hire a consultant to to conduct studies and tests to make sure, to write a report, to satisfy the government that there are no contaminants there, so that it will meet the addition to reserve policy. I can't just, Chris said, and somebody was at a community and said it's clean, so we're going to take their word for it. That is not how it works. They want a consultant's report to do tests and all that kind of stuff, and they want a report. You know, sometimes they want too many reports.
Right.
And so right now, the government has spent so much money in consultants and reports, they're just sitting in the bureaucracy, collecting dust in the archives. Nothing ever came of those reports. And I think when Bob Nault was the minister, he said there's too many reports that are not accomplishing a thing. And so, to me, the council has to be strategic in what's happening, but I think here, like other Mohawk communities, our membership is growing, and we have to get more land to satisfy the needs of a growing population. And so land reclamation is very important to the young people's future. So that's why we push to get more land back. Council has recently bought land to add to the reserve. It'll go through the ATR process, but you have to go through that process in order to confirm its reserve. Now, one of the areas we have disagreement on is some of the land that was never surrendered. We said a simple order in council that should be all that's necessary, because it was never surrendered to leave the reserve in the first place.
Right.
So in our view, that has always been reserve land that has been encroached upon. But the government still, the only tool they have in their toolbox is that addition to reserve policy. There was consultation to do reform on the addition to reserve policy. There have been some changes made. It does no longer has to be contiguous to your land base. You don't have to state what you're going to do with the land. You can just add the land as long as it's environmentally safe, then it will meet the policy.
Okay, so in lieu of like the let's say 4-year term.
And
for
the other
count-
thing is that you have to satisfy the municipal interest, and so in the Culberson case, the normal, policy of the government currently was that you had to pay 5 years of taxes, so we have opened up 2 bank accounts at the Bank of Montreal, one for the Tonnega Township and one for the town of Desron to satisfy the loss of taxes.
All right.
You have to do all that to satisfy getting it confirmed as reserved by the federal government.
All right, I think we're, okay. I appreciate the information. I think we're getting a little bit sidetracked there. I was kind of trying to get at like, in lieu of the whole 4-year term to allow for better continuity for plans, so is there any kind of process, procedure, or notion of, hey, we know we're gonna get this land, or we're pretty dang sure it's located near the 401, let's allocate a couple acreage to ECDev, let's locate a couple acreage to maybe apartment buildings, because land is an issue, and as much as subdivisions and having your own yard and your own house is nice,
Okay.
land's an issue. So when land's an issue, like metropolitan areas, they tend to build up, right? Is there any kind of apartment plan for Culbertson?
There is.
Oh,
The-
not for Culbertson.
At our last meeting, we did announce that we were going to, they're designing a 19-unit apartment building to be built there. Now, one thing about the developing, we called it Flat Street because that area was always called the Flats at one time. And so we called the street where the subdivision, and if you haven't done so, I'd encourage everybody to go back there and see the houses that have been built. They're cute little houses. There's 14 being built there. The plan is to put about 40 units there, which would include the 19-unit apartment building. But the issue there is you have to have a sewage pump because it's uphill, okay? And so we have to invest money to do the sewage pump because it's primarily for our use, okay? So we're getting money from the department for the sewage pump. That's gonna cost $600,000 or so, or $700,000 to put that sewage pump to pump the sewage up to this treatment plant. But there is limited capacity on the town of Desrondo of water system and sewage plant. It's not build as many as you like. Every plant has a capacity. So then, and the other thing with the Desrondo system, it's aging. It was built around 1975, 76, so eventually there's going to have to be a new water treatment plant and a sewage treatment plant. The water treatment plant has all been refurbished with optimization, which we contributed to. We do have capacity there to develop for more units, but because of the limited sewage pumping issue, we may have to develop maybe at Huron Brent West because there isn't that uphill pumping there. But we have other lots that we can develop. But currently, if we're going to develop in the Sadie's Lane area, the sewer there goes to the lagoon at the school, and the lagoon is saturated in that capacity, so it's going to cost $6 million to replace that. And the government, through our lobby, the government has committed to provide the $6 million to replace that. And I want to thank the 2 councillors that came with me to help with that lobby, Linda and Chip.
Okay, thanks.
And Aguari's been at some of them. So we have a lot of need, and we have to address that need. And I think if you get the job, quite a bit of the job done, then the people will see progress. They want to see progress. They don't want to hear about it. They want to see it. I know people on the lower Slash Road ask me, when are we getting water? I have people at Snooks' Lane, when's it coming up my way? I've heard that from people up that way. And everybody's asked me that question. Gene, you used to ask it often. How come our road's not paved? When are we going to get water? You got it. But one thing we need to do, I was always taught in my belief to help the elders. And when I see an elder living in mold and squalor and they don't have the ability to fix something that's urgent, I go out of my way to go to bat with them, even if it means getting extra money in from another source, because when you go here, then if you don't meet the policy, you don't qualify. And so sometimes the council gives me a lot of heck, because I go to bat for them and get money from another source to address the need. Because to me, it's one less person that's in need. And I want the people to have safe drinking water, good housing, education, and good food to eat and employment. Because a community that's unemployed and addicted is not a healthy community. And so here we have a lot of jobs, a lot of people are working, where there's more jobs here now than there ever been. When I first went to the band office and became a counselor, we had 2 typewriters. One was about 1920, the keys would strike way down. I typed letters for Chief Hill on that typewriter, by the way. And we thought we were really coming up in the world when we got an electric typer that had a corrector ribbon on it.
Somebody's waiting.
And I had the help of the newsletter run that Gestetner. We'd crank that around and put out the papers. But we all just used to pitch in and help. We were not territorial about jobs and territorial about things. If something needed to be done and we could help, we did. Volunteerism is very important in the community, and I want to thank the people that helped with the Christchurch cleanup. Lou, you were there. Chip, you were there to help with that cleanup. That was great. And actually, a lot of young people are coming out to help. You know, our parks, our cemeteries, there's lots of things we can do to beautify our community and be proud of it. And I want to thank the people that also worked so hard to put on the landing program and did work to make that a success, and the council for showing up for that and to do your part. But there's always something we contribute, and it's not just what your community can do for you. Sometimes it's what you can do for your community as well.
You can go ahead with your question.
Well, I think we're drawing to a close of the meeting, and those were good words to end on, Chief. Thank you very much. Would like to thank the council for showing up. You're all here. That's nice. But one thing, I would like to leave one action item that could be done, and that is people's concerns that they don't get answers back from administration in a timely manner. 2 years ago, someone had suggested that it be set as a standard. Many organizations have it. You will get an answer in 24 hours, in 48 hours. So that is something that's within your purview to do now and to put it in effect. I think that would go a long way to satisfying people's questions that could be answered quickly and briefly.
Thank you.
Duly noted. Okay, so it's 9 o'clock. Anna? Anna?
Now was a wag what when Horada Genie and then there was a wagate of the one was soon died.
Thanks, everybody, for taking time out and coming and chatting with us and
Okay.
sharing your insight. It's always what we need to hear.
So I would also like to thank Hannah, one of our young people who've done an excellent job running the meeting. And it's very important that the young people learn these skills, because we can't do these jobs forever. We're getting old now, and the young people need to learn how to do these things. Let's give Hannah a great hand, please.